On the last motorcycle therapy, we showed you our worst day.
The windy Patagonia day.
Yeah, we crashed our motorcycles, we had to camp in the ditch, it was nonsense. On today's motorcycle therapy, arguably, this is our best day.
It's hard to pick a best day on a trip this long.
Yeah, we reached Ushuaia, the end of the road in Argentina. It's a good one. Stick around.
Just check in, see if you're listening, blah, blah, blah. Just check in, see if you're listening, man.
Yeah, what did you think of that windy day, Al?
Well, the windy day was crap. It was bad. It was awful. But we had everything we needed. We had our tents. We had some food. We survived. It was okay. And getting up early when the wind stopped was lovely.
That was a great idea. We finally got up before dawn, actually. Well, about dawn. And we got on our motorcycles and we made it to El Chaltén.
Yes, we made it to Mount Fitz Roy, the iconic mountain that so many overlanders get a picture of.
We couldn't find a place to sleep.
It was expensive and it was full.
Yep. So we ended up finding a spot in a hostel that let us pack up tents in the backyard.
Right, so we paid to camp in the backyard, which was still really windy, even tight up against the fence. But at least we had showers and Wi-Fi and everything we needed indoors.
And we spent a day or two there, and we went for a hike that one day as well.
We did do the hike to go see the viewpoint for Mount Fitzroy, but even then it was really hard to get any clear sightings and photos or video of the mountain.
What you doing now?
Taking a photo. I need to be just a little bit taller to see over this. That's good. Now Mount Fitzroy just needs to come out from the clouds. How long should I wait here? Just like this.
So we stayed for 2 nights, and on the 3rd day we drove away, and as we were leaving town, the sky was clear and we could finally have a beautiful, unobstructed view of Mount Fitzroy. So I made us stop. At least Jeremy's used to me making us stop by now. Like, we're probably never coming back here. We have to get the photos while we can. So we spent a good half an hour at the side of the road taking pictures and then driving back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, taking pictures and video of us riding towards Mount Fitzroy.
The next stop was Calafate. Calafate is famous for what?
Well, it's really close to where Perito Moreno glacier is.
This glacier, you've probably seen it if you've ever watched a nature documentary involving Argentina. It is a vast blue tongue of ice that is just moving at a glacial pace, of course, because it's a glacier. And it's collapsing slowly.
Calving into the water right below, yes. And it's really neat because I've been to Alaska, you've been to Alaska, we live in the Rocky Mountains, we've seen glaciers before, but this one has a really beautiful viewpoint. You're on the mountain beside it, and the walkway just gets better and better the closer you get and the more you walk. You can stand directly opposite this glacier and watch chunks of it break off, calve into the water, splash and rebound, and you can also see above the height of that wall of ice all the way back the field where it comes from between the two mountains. So it's a great view.
It's absolutely beautiful. We woke up really early because, again, the wind, and we lit off for Rio Gallegos. And we got some gas and we got some snacks.
And that was the plan. Arrive early, not have to worry about the wind, get to where we're going without any stress or chasing the sun or anything like that. And then we didn't know what to do ourselves once we got there.
So I kind of looked at Elle kind of looked at me, and we're like, well, I guess we could keep going.
We decided to take our perfectly laid plans, perfectly executed plans, and throw them out the window and just keep traveling in the afternoon. But it turned out all right. We did get across the border, which was no problem.
We got to Punta Arenas. Elle needed a service on her BMW, so we found a great motorcycle mechanic.
Awesome guy.
So after getting a service, our next goal was to get, now we're in Chile. Do you want to talk about tear gas?
Oh yeah, right. Okay, we stayed for a couple nights. We went out for dinner and we went in to the restaurant for supper, and we passed some people who were doing a little bit of a protest. Not a lot, maybe 15, 20 people.
Well, on the way out, after we had eaten, I remember kind of feeling a little irritation in my nose, and I started to sneeze a little bit, and I was like, I must have picked something up.
What's going on?
Well, I was inside the hotel and I was wondering why I was all of a sudden sneezing, and then I realized I've smelled this before. That's tear gas.
Oh.
We're getting mildly tear gassed right now.
Oh, it's the first time I've ever felt it.
The streets were crowded with protesters, probably about 50 people, so it wasn't a super big protest, but enough.
This
And-
restaurant staff knew what was ramping up, and they were pulling up plywood to cover their glass windows.
There was a water cannon, and there was tear gas, and I don't
was
think
stuff on
rubber
fire.
bullets, but people were throwing things at the police, and the police were responding with tear gas
Yeah.
and water.
And most people did scatter, like it did do its job of breaking up the protest,
Yeah.
except for a few who stuck around.
Like Elle, for example.
So do you want to hear my perspective of this same incident? We have to walk back to our hostel anyway. Mostly people are scattered. There is a truck with a water cannon driving around putting out the fires of burning rubble in the street, but mostly it's safe. It's not too bad. I'm coughing a little bit because of tear gas, but most of it's blowing by. And as I cough, this really enthusiastic, young, helpful girl with a big smile on her face comes up and offers me some water because she sees that I'm coughing from the tear gas. And she was so friendly and enthusiastic and wanting to engage that I thought, this is a perfect opportunity. We're not immediately in danger. No one's shooting at us or anything. We're fine. We're around the corner from the main incident. And I said, I don't need water. Thank you very much, though. I do have some questions. Do you have a minute?
When Elle says she has a question, brace yourself for a 45-minute barrage of questions.
Who better to understand exactly what the protests are about and why they're protesting than the people actually protesting? And she was happy. She was bouncy and enthusiastic and really energetic.
Until
So
she
was
realized you couldn't speak Spanish very well.
not very well. So I did get a little bit of info. That's my version. I'm glad I talked to her.
Yeah, that was our tear gas experience. The plan was to, the next day, pick up Elle's motorcycle and go to the ferry and cross over into Porvenir and carry on south. Well, we got the motorcycle and it was all fixed up. Alejandro did a great job. And then when we went to the ferry, we rolled to the front of the line and they said, no motos.
Yeah. We've already explained that our Spanish is far from fluent, so it might have been helpful to speak more, but she just said, no motos, not today, no boat for you, tomorrow, motos.
Well, we had a whole day ahead of us and we didn't want to wait. So there's another option to carry on to Ushuaia.
We got to backtrack a little bit and go around to Punta Delgada.
Okay, all of this ferry talk can get a little bit confusing, so let me illustrate with this map. In order to get from Rio Gallegos to Ushuaia, Argentina, you have to do a few things. First, you have to cross into Chile using this border crossing here. Then you have to take one of two ferries, either here or here, before driving to another border crossing here to get back into Argentina. That takes you the final stretch to Ushuaia. Since Elle and I were already in Punta Arenas, our best bet was to catch this ferry to Porvenir, Chile. When they said we couldn't do that, we had to backtrack all the way to this ferry over here, and now you're caught up. Yep, we did a lot of backtracking, but we figured it'll still be faster than waiting for 24 hours to get another ferry.
Yep, there's your problem.
On this ride, the wind was punishing. That's a theme in this part of the world. But we turned a corner 90 degrees, and all of a sudden it was like the wind was switched off.
It was a really strange experience. I can still remember that. It was so bizarre, and it's a good thing that we were able to talk, because I was like, is it windy right now or is it not? Because I don't feel any actual wind, but I see all the grass bent over completely. What's going on?
The wind was going exactly the same direction that we were and at exactly the same speed. It felt a lot like sitting on a motorcycle in a motorcycle showroom.
Yeah.
Well, we arrived at the ferry and we're in line, and then somebody motions us forward because motorcycles apparently don't wait in line. The
So
wind was brutal and the ferries were just waiting until there was a little bit of calm so that they could sail. We could see the other side. It wasn't that far at all.
No, but the boat was not going in that wind. So we sat down and waited for 8 hours.
Anyway, we finally got onto that ferry, and now it's late at night.
It
it's
is
cold.
past supper time. It's cold.
And now the funny thing happens. All of the motorcyclists who are on that ferry are all basically racing for the same singular hotel
Yeah.
on the other side of the water.
Yep.
And we're all kind of like, it's a cannonball run situation.
Yep.
So we're all in a huge convoy trying to get to this hotel first, but we have to get gas. So do some other motorcyclists. We gas up as quick as we can, and we show up at this in the middle of nowhere hotel.
70 Canadian dollars a night for a
Sie-
dorm room.
Cerro
For
Sombrero.
Yeah, that was the city,
Yeah.
town. and no Wi-Fi, no towels. The bathroom is at the end of the hall. It's a dorm. And it was expensive, and I was unhappy, but I was also cold and tired, and we just didn't complain and took it.
They had the market cornered, and they knew it.
Yeah.
So do you want to sleep inside tonight, or do you not want to sleep inside tonight? Because
Yep.
if you want to be inside, give us 70 Canadian dollars.
Yep.
If you want to be outside, that's fine. Go knock yourself out. Needless to say, we only stayed there one night. Now we've only got one thing left to do.
Get to the tip of Tierra del Fuego.
That's right. It's January 31st.
Yeah.
We had another border crossing, and how did you feel when you finally rolled in to Ushuaia?
I was happy to see the signs for the town, those markers with the letters Ushuaia on them that I've seen so many other motorcyclists take pictures at. There was a sense of accomplishment, but it was hard to feel very celebratory because we were tired.
Yeah, rather than being elated as I thought I might be accomplishing this goal that I'd had since 1995, I was just tired. And the next week in Ushuaia, we spent basically unwinding.
We slept a lot. So just beyond the town of Ushuaia, where the markers are that you can take your pictures at that say Ushuaia, there technically is a little bit more road. Not far, an hour, hour and a half of riding, and then there's literally the end of the road. And there's a sign there that says how many kilometers it is to Buenos Aires and how many to Alaska.
Yeah.
So we got to the sign, we took our photos.
It's a classic photo op for motorcyclists and travelers alike. After resting up and exhausting all the usual photo opportunities, about 1 week had elapsed in Ushuaia. We took a side trip to see a penguin colony. We met up with some fellow travelers, but soon enough we got restless and it was time to move on. On a whim, we decided to check in with an agent about last-minute deals on passage to Antarctica. The agent confirmed what we had suspected. We could not afford it. On the other hand, we reasoned, we may never be back this way ever again. Perhaps we could not afford to miss the chance of getting to Antarctica. With that airtight logic, we marched into the agent's office, surrendered to them 1/3 of our entire trip budget, and booked an adventure flying to and then exploring around Antarctica.
The one that we booked does not leave from Ushuaia, it leaves from Punta Arenas. So again, we have to leave the island of Tierra del Fuego and go back to mainland Chile.
So one of the final nights that we are in Ushuaia, Elle and I go out for dinner once again, and we're sitting there. We've already booked our passage to the Antarctic, and we're still kind of tired, even though we'd been resting for a week. And I was sipping my beer, and we were having some dinner, and then I kind of had this thought occur to me, and I just said to Elle, that's it. With our motorcycles at least, we have no more south to do. And the next day we were going to pack up our motorcycles
And for
and
the first time in 7 months,
we were going to start riding north. Now yes, we had a side adventure to the Antarctic, that was more south to come, but really with our bikes this was it. And it got me a little choked up, a little verklempt.
I think that also explains how we felt when we first arrived in Ushuaia too. Instead of feeling all celebratory, there was some sadness there because it's the end. That's it.
It had cost us a lot of time and energy and effort. We had had a lot of great experiences on the way down. We have had some challenges too, flat tires in Peru, stranded in the dust behind a police station, crashing our motorcycles on the Route of 40, not to mention all the other adventures throughout Central and South America, and it seemed to be wrapping up.
Yeah. We still had the way back to go. We didn't know COVID was going to stop us from going back. We thought we had all the time in the world to go back, but still reaching the end, like the furthest point south and not having any more was sad.
It was sad. But let's not end on that note. Hey, on the next video, we've got the Antarctic coming up. Lots more penguins, lots more wildlife, and we've got some adventures. Here's a quick commercial break. I've got two really cool projects that I want to tell you about, two new products rather. Do you know what a non-fungible token is?
I didn't know until you told me.
I didn't know what a non-fungible token was either, but I looked into it and turns out they're ridiculous. And so I made one. If you collect non-fungible tokens, there's a very small percentage of you that do, But if you collect NFTs, I've got one. It's basically this logo, and I'm going to leave a link to that in the description below. Do you want one of my NFTs? I've only made 12, and I don't think I'm going to make any more of any kind because
we don't even know. We're just figuring it out.
they're kind of weird. But for those of you who don't collect NFTs and don't even know what they are, I've got something else for you. I just finished and released the audiobook for Through Dust and Darkness. It's about a trip that I did through the Middle East and North Africa. So if you like to listen to the sound of my voice, you can do so for 8 hours. You can get it wherever audiobooks are sold. Every time we film one of these, our relationship is in jeopardy.
A little bit. A little bit. Yep.